It's so easy to become the product of your environment. A lot of people's potential is limited because of who they hang around. A ceiling is placed at the roof of their highest capacity, not because of mental capability, not because of physical capability, not because of spiritual or emotional capability, simply by the mere fact of their environment has provided a source of misinformation, a limited source of information that has narrowed their view of what somebody like them can be, or has encouraged them to be a certain track or be a certain thing as the only example of success or of making something out of yourself. People say you're a product of your environment, and that statement is not far from the truth.
Was eating to live, yeah, I'm living to eat. Catch me enjoying vegan recipes. Fiend for chlorophyll.
Greetings, it's your boy Gartatia. Today we are talking about environment. I do have the tendency sometimes, people say that I could be more understanding of different situations, of people growing up in different places, and that I should get off my soapbox, and that I could talk in a tone that is more flexible and that is more receptive to people who didn't grow up like me. I'm not gonna lie. On a scale of 9 to 10, I didn't grow up in the streets. We were poor growing up, but we weren't homeless. We weren't without food to eat. There was a lot of struggles I went through, but there were a lot of blessings I had. So this video is almost a message to me, Dear Diary type shit, but also a message to a lot of you all who struggle with kind of getting outside of your mental framework and putting yourself in another person's shoes. Because at the end of the day, everybody wants to be understood. Everybody wants to be heard. And the closer we get to hearing each other, and more importantly, experiencing or getting outside of ourselves and implanting ourselves in the shoes of others, the closer we'll get to a place where we're in a state of peace and harmony. Nobody will want to harm their brother or harm their sister if they know that that person went through a struggle similar to him or her, or a struggle in which that person has experienced and knows the repercussions of that struggle, would be 10 times more understanding, right? And what kind of helped me symbolize this was this analogy of thinking of rubber. So if you think of rubber, we think of the cycle of rubber. It comes from trees, it comes from sap, it comes from, I believe, amber. So let's say there's this tree, this rubber tree, and let's say this rubber tree is by a highway. It's by a highway. So they grow up, the tree, plant the seed, the tree gets water, nutrients, but it's right next to this noisy highway. So as the tree grows up, all the tree sees and all the sap sees inside the tree are these cars, vroom vroom, fast cars all day. They see these really fast, nice, designer cars. They see trucks, they see 4x4s, they see terrafuges, flying cars. They see all this rubber on the road in the form of a tire. So when that sap and that tree grow up, it wants nothing more than to grow up and be a tire. That's all it wants to do. All it wants to do is go to the process, get extracted for rubber, go to another factory, get turned into a tire, and then get put onto some nice rims and go vroom vroom on the highway. That's all that tire wants, because that's all that tire sees. So guess what happens to the sap? That's all that rubber wants, because that's all that rubber sees. So the sap, some industries come in, some capitalists come in, and they take the sap from the rubber tree, they bring it to a factory, and they turn the sap into rubber. So now the sap is happy. Sap is like, yeah, I'm finally rubber now. I'm getting older. I'm almost there, almost in the stage of being a tire, 2 steps closer. So what happens? A few more weeks later, truck comes in, takes that rubber to the tire factory. Now the rubber's like, oh, I can't wait to be a tire. They're gonna make me a big juicy tire. Can't wait. So what happens? Boom, it's a tire now. And then that tire gets fitted to a Lexus, gets fitted to a Honda, gets fitted to a Maserati, and that's like dream come true for the tire, which used to be rubber, which used to be sap. Its life cycle has been realized. finally on the road. And it's like, let's see what this feels like. And it feels amazing at first. The tire is like, ooh, I get to go fast. It feels so good. They fill me up with air, and I just feel so strong. And if the grip on the asphalt just feels amazing. So this is the point of view of a tire. But what happens over time? The driver avoids a few accidents, floors the gas. The tire makes a few sharp turns. God forbid the driver is a drifter. What happens to the tire? It erodes over time. It smoothens. It gets embedded into the asphalt. It gets eroded. And that wonderful dream of I'm going to grow up and be a tire when I get older, the sap had, it's not what it's caught up to be. Right? That sap didn't think that its life would be that short. As it was fun being on the road and going vroom vroom, but it was much shorter than that tire thought. So it gets used, it gets burnt up, it gets eroded. And what happens? The cycle repeats. Another rubber tree grows up by this loud, noisy street, this loud, noisy highway, and it wants the exact same thing. I want to be rubber when I grow up. I want to be a tire when I grow up. And the cycle repeats. Someone comes in with the car, uses the tire, and when they're done with the tire, they toss it. Someone comes, uses the tire, they're done with the tire, toss it. Right? The tire's whole purpose is to provide friction, is to provide resistance, is to help the cars get a grip on their life, to help the people who use them get a grip. And all they know is to help people get a grip. All they know is to resist movement, friction. That's what tires are for. They provide friction so cars don't slip and slide. What's friction? Friction is just the resistance to motion, inertia. So all this tire wants, all this sap, all this rubber wants to be when it grows up is something that just resists change, that resists motion, and something that can be used to help other people get a grip. Right? So many people, they grow up in a certain environment and they become so fixated on thinking that there's only one solution, one way out in that environment. Just like that sap. This is the only solutions for me to get on a really fast car, a Maserati, once I become a tire, and my life's going to be amazing. It didn't plan 2-3 steps ahead when it would be tossed to the curve after that owner just drifted for a day and now his whole life is over. But as a sap, that idea sounded amazing because every day the tree looked onto that highway and saw those free cars just going fast, fast, fast. The capacity or the potential of that tire wasn't limited because that's the only thing the rubber could have been. It was limited because that's the only thing that rubber has been around. A lot of people's potential is limited because of who they hang around. A lot of people's potential, a ceiling is placed at the roof of their highest capacity, not because of mental capability, not because of physical capability, not because of spiritual or emotional capability, simply by the mere fact of their environment has provided a source of misinformation or a limited source of information that has narrowed their view of what somebody like them can be, or has encouraged them to be a certain track or be a certain thing, a tire, as the only example of success or of making something out of yourself. People say you're a product of your environment, and that statement is not far from the truth. It's so easy to become the product of your environment. But the change happens at that point of where you plant the tree. See, had that tree been planted near the Bull Stadium, had that tree been planted near United Center, right? Had that tree been planted at a basketball court, that tree would see LeBron dribbling the ball, seeing these celebrities, how happy they were handling the ball, how good it feels for the ball to go through the hoop, how good it feels to to bounce up and down on the floor all day. That tree would have been exposed to that. That sap would have been exposed to that. So what do you think that tree will want to do when it became rubber? That sap will want to do when it became rubber, it want to be a basketball, right? It's like, I can't wait to be in the hands of Michael Jordan. I can't wait to be in the hands of LeBron James. I can't wait to be in the hands of Steph Curry, because its new environment, which is near a basketball court, all it sees is successful rubbers being turned into basketballs. So that's all it wants to do, is be a basketball. And sometimes these different things that are a product of their environment happen to be better than others. A tire is really bad at changing. A tire's whole purpose is to resist motion, is to resist change. Whereas a ball's purpose is to bounce, is to be free, is to be liberated. If you ever toss something at a ball, if you ever throw something at a ball or try to attack a ball, I don't know why you would, what does the ball do? It just throws it back at you. It bounces, it shakes off any opposition. It's the opposite of a tire. What else does a ball do? A ball can move in all directions, up, down, forward, backwards, left, right. What does a tire do? A tire can only move forward and backwards. Maybe if you got hydraulics, up and down. So just by mere fact of the way they move, a ball and a ball has a whole degree of freedom more than a tire, just by the mere fact, not because it's made of a different thing, not because it's a different process or a different material. A ball is so much more free just by essence of where the tree was planted. The rubber tree was just planted near a basketball court, so it became a basketball. A lot of people, they grow up in privileged environments. A lot of people grow up in environments that encourage flexibility. A lot of people grow up in environments that encourage staying true to yourself, environments that encourage staying in your energy and brushing off spiritual, physical, emotional attacks, not letting them take salt in your character. A lot of people grow up with the privilege of understanding the flexibility and the freedom they actually have. A lot of people grow up with the privilege of understanding they can be anything in life. They were fed a diet of strict encouragement, a diet of strict love and motivation and belief from their parents, from their mother figures, father figures, and loved ones, which is great, which is amazing. However, a lot of times these people suffer with understanding the viewpoints of people who were tires. They suffer with understanding the viewpoints of people who were in a different environment and didn't grow up with that, who were in a different environment when successful meant being a tire. Successful meant staying in your lane, staying one directional. Success meant working a job, being used by your employer. Success meant staying true to what you've always known, never getting outside of the box, sacrificing your safety, sacrificing your well-being and your family to help someone else's dream come true, to help this fantasy you have of self-preservation, of playing it safe, of protect and provide instead of deflect and thrive. A lot of people are in just defense mode. The best defense is a good offense. A lot of people stay stuck in that mentality. And once they're in that mentality, once they're a tire, it's almost hard to go back to the rubber stage. But that's the good thing about rubber. The other point I want to mention is you can always melt the rubber back down and then go back and be a ball. And then go back and maybe be a rubber band. Maybe you want to be elastic. Maybe you want to be flexible. Maybe you want to be stretched. Maybe you want to have an open mind. Maybe you want to free yourself. You want to have an open opinion and view things from bird's eye view in all perspectives. But a lot of people have to have that meltdown from that rigidity. A lot of people have to have that breakdown from that closed mindedness. A lot of people need to have a meltdown of everything they used to believe to be true in order for them to take things to the next level, in order for them to even have a chance at becoming something else. You'll never become the thing that you wish to become if you stay in the environment that wants you to become something else, knowing that that environment is going to keep you enslaved to it forever. Right? So environment is everything. Not everybody has the privilege to just get out of their environment. I understand not everybody has the finances, not everybody has the money to do so. However, what today's day and age has given us all access to is network, is community, is our ability to speak. And the more we kind of flex that muscle of challenging our belief system, kind of flex that muscle of challenging our core values, kind of flex that muscle of challenging the ways that we were raised, not challenging them saying that they're wrong, but questioning them, questioning everything instead of blindly following and continuing to get the same results. If we want to change our results, a lot of times we can try to change everything else, but if we stay in the same environment that's given us the negative results consistently in our history, we're almost destined, some might say cursed, to be caught up in that cycle of continuous disappointment and continuous thwarting of your efforts to rise out of poverty, to rise out of suffering, to rise out of hate, to rise out of toxic cycle of relationships and just friendships that go nowhere. And yeah, I hope this concept wasn't too confusing. I hope I didn't make things harder to understand about environments. But I kind of wanted to provide, two things we really understand in America, which is basketball and cars, and trying to use that as an analogy of in different environments, how we need to stay conscious, how we need to stay aware of other people's backgrounds. And at the end of the day, let's build platforms that encourage dialogue. Let's build platforms that encourage us to speak to one another so that we can take our abilities and take this planet to a higher vibration. And with that being said, stay hydrated, stay breathing in that good ass oxygen, and most importantly, stay basic. I love you.